Chapter 1. Maya's hands trembled as she tried to juggle her boarding pass, her worn canvas bag, and 6-month-old Lily, who had been crying for the past hour. The Dubai airport buzzed with delayed passengers, but all she could hear was her daughter's piercing wails echoing off the marble floors. "Shh, Habibti," she whispered, exhaustion making her voice shake. Just a few more hours. A few more hours until London. A few more hours until freedom from her late husband's family, who had made it clear that a foreign widow with a half-Arab child had no place in their world. After Tariq's death 6 months ago, a convenient car accident that no one questioned, his family had slowly tightened their grip on her life. First, it was concern for her welfare. Then it was restrictions on where she could go, who she could see. Finally, it was the whispered conversations she wasn't supposed to overhear about arrangements and suitable guardians for Lily. She'd planned this escape for 3 months, working a secret online job, hiding money in places they'd never look, waiting for the perfect moment. That moment came yesterday, when the family left for a wedding in Abu Dhabi. She'd grabbed Lily and run. The gate attendant's voice crackled over the intercom. Final boarding call for Flight 28 to London. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. Once they boarded that plane, there would be no going back. Her in-laws would never forgive her for leaving, for taking what they considered their property. Tariq's daughter, their blood. She stumbled toward the gate, Lily's cries growing louder. The few remaining passengers shot her annoyed glances, but she kept her head down. In a few hours, they'd be in London. In a few hours, she'd figure out their next move. The plane was nearly empty, a blessing from the storm delays that had scattered travelers across the region. Maya found her seat in the middle section, grateful for the space to spread out. Maybe she could finally get some rest. Maybe Lily would finally calm down in the quiet cabin. "Excuse me." The voice was deep, refined, and sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. She looked up to find a man settling into the seat beside her, despite the dozen empty rows available throughout the aircraft. He was striking, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing traditional white thobe and gutra that somehow looked more elegant than any Western suit she'd ever seen. Dark eyes the color of strong coffee, sharp, aristocratic features, and an air of quiet authority that screamed wealth and power. Everything about him suggested old money and older lineage. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, gathering Lily closer to her chest. "I can move if you need the space." "No need." He fastened his seatbelt with practiced ease, those dark eyes never leaving her face. There was something unsettling about his gaze, not threatening, but intensely focused, as if he was memorizing every detail. "Difficult night?" Maya's laugh was bitter, brittle. "You could say that." Lily chose that moment to let out an ear-splitting wail that echoed through the cabin. Maya felt her cheeks burn as other passengers turned to stare. She tried bouncing, shushing, everything she'd learned in 6 months of motherhood, but nothing worked. The stranger glanced at the baby, then back at Maya. And something shifted in his expression, a softening around his eyes, perhaps, or recognition of desperation when he saw it. Without a word, he reached into his thobe and pulled out a small leather prayer bead tasbih, the beads worn smooth from use. "May I?" "Oh, you don't have to. It's fine." He held it out to Lily, who immediately stopped crying and reached for the interesting new object with both tiny hands. The blessed silence that followed was worth whatever expensive item she was now drooling on. "Thank you," Maya breathed, feeling tears of relief prick her eyes. "I'm Maya, by the way. And this is Lily." Rashid. He studied them both with an intensity that made her skin prickle with awareness. Al-Mansouri. The name didn't mean anything to her, but the way he said it suggested it should. There was weight behind those syllables, history and power and expectation. "She's beautiful," Rashid said quietly, watching Lily examine the prayer beads with intense baby concentration. "How old?" 6 months. Maya's arms ached from holding her, but she didn't dare put Lily down. The baby was calm now, but that could change in an instant. "She's usually not this fussy. I think she senses that I'm stressed." "Long journey ahead?" Something in his tone made her glance at him sharply. "Not too long," she said carefully. She wasn't about to tell a strange man their plans, no matter how kind he seemed. Rashid nodded, seemingly satisfied with her non-answer. The storm is supposed to clear by morning. It should be smooth flying. The plane began its taxi toward the runway, and Maya felt the familiar mixture of terror and exhilaration. She was really doing this. Really leaving everything behind. Her marriage, her life in Dubai, the family that had tried to cage her. As the plane took off, Maya watched through the window as Dubai's glittering lights grew smaller and smaller until they disappeared into the clouds. Below them, the city where she'd spent the last 3 years faded into darkness. Somewhere down there, her in-laws were probably still at the wedding, unaware that their daughter-in-law and granddaughter were gone. Her eyes grew heavy despite her best efforts to stay alert. The adrenaline that had kept her running for 48 hours was finally wearing off, and the gentle hum of the engines was oddly soothing. Lily had fallen asleep against her chest, tiny fingers still clutching Rashid's prayer beads. "You should rest," Rashid said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'll keep watch." "I can't." The words came out more panicked than she intended. I don't sleep around strangers. It's not safe." "I understand." And surprisingly, he did seem to understand. There was something in his eyes, a flicker of recognition that made her think he knew exactly what she was running from. "But you're exhausted. When was the last time you slept?" She couldn't remember. The days had blurred together in a haze of planning and packing and terror. Every time she'd closed her eyes, she'd imagined her father-in-law's face when he discovered she was gone. The rage, the threats, the promises of what he'd do when he found her. "I'm fine." But even she could hear how unconvincing it sounded. "You're not fine. You're dead on your feet." He reached up and pressed the call button. When the flight attendant appeared, he asked for a blanket in perfect English, touched with a British accent. "At least let me help." The blanket was soft and warm, and when he draped it over her shoulders, she caught his scent. Expensive cologne mixed with something uniquely him that made her feel inexplicably safe. "I really shouldn't," she murmured. But her eyes were already drifting closed. "Just for a little while," Rashid said. "I promise nothing will happen to either of you." It was the promise that did it. Not because she believed him, she barely knew him, but because she wanted to believe him. Just for a few hours, she wanted to let someone else carry the weight of keeping them safe. She felt herself listing to the side, felt her head come to rest against something solid and warm, Rashid's shoulder. She should pull away, should maintain her distance. But the exhaustion was stronger than her fear. "Sleep," he said quietly. And she felt his hand settle gently on Lily's back, holding them both steady. "I've got you both." The last thing she remembered was the steady rhythm of his breathing and the way his scent seemed to wrap around them like a shield. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like and subscribe for more emotional journeys and unexpected romances. Your support helps us create more content like this. Chapter 2. Maya woke to gentle turbulence and the sound of Lily babbling happily. For a moment, she was disoriented, unsure where she was or how much time had passed. Then she felt the solid warmth beneath her cheek and realized with horror that she was still curled against Rashid's shoulder. She jerked upright, heat flooding her cheeks. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." "It's fine." His voice was rougher than before, and when she looked at him, there was something different in his expression, something that made her stomach flutter. "You needed the rest." Lily was awake in his arms. When had he taken her? And why did the sight of this dangerous-looking man holding her baby so gently make her heart race? "How long was I asleep?" she asked, glancing out the window. The landscape below was different than she'd expected, more mountainous, more rugged, most of the flight. His smile was small but warm. "She's been an angel. Slept for hours. Most of the flight to where?" Maya frowned, pressing her face closer to the window. Something was wrong. This definitely wasn't London. The terrain was all wrong, the buildings unfamiliar. "We should be landing in London soon, right?" "About that." Rashid's smile widened slightly, and for the first time she noticed something calculating in his eyes. "There's been a slight change of plans." The plane began its descent, and Maya's blood ran cold as she recognized the cityscape below. "Where are we?" "Welcome to Istanbul," Rashid said calmly, as if he hadn't just turned her world upside down. "The flight was redirected due to weather. Didn't you hear the announcement?" She hadn't heard any announcement. She'd been dead to the world, vulnerable and trusting in a way that could have gotten them both killed. "I need to get to London. I have to. I have plans. People waiting." "I'm afraid that's not possible tonight." Rashid handed Lily back to her, his fingers lingering on hers for just a moment too long. "All flights west are grounded until morning. The storm system is massive." Maya wanted to argue, to demand he prove it. But the exhaustion was creeping back in. Lily had started fussing again, and the familiar weight of desperation settled in her chest. She had exactly $200 in her wallet, and no credit card that couldn't be traced. "There has to be something," she said, hearing the pleading note in her own voice that she hated. "Another flight, a hotel, something." "There is?" Rashid's smile was gentle, but there was something else lurking beneath it, something that made her pulse quicken. "Come with me. I'll help you figure out your next move." Every instinct screamed at her to refuse. Strange men didn't help single mothers without expecting something in return. But what choice did she have? She was stranded in an unfamiliar city with a baby and almost no money. "I can't pay you," she said quietly, hating how small her voice sounded. "I'm not asking for payment." His hand moved to the small of her back, guiding her toward the exit. "Just trust." The words sat heavy between them as they walked through the terminal and into the cool Istanbul night. The Istanbul airport was smaller than Dubai's, but Maya barely noticed as Rashid guided her through the terminal with a hand at the small of her back. His touch was light, almost casual, but she felt it like a brand through the thin fabric of her abaya. "This way," he said, steering her toward the exit where a sleek black Mercedes waited at the curb, engine running. "My car is waiting." A driver in a dark suit got out and opened the rear door with a respectful nod. "Welcome, Mr. Al-Mansouri." "I can't." Maya stopped walking, clutching Lily tighter. "I need to find another flight to London. Tonight. All flights west are grounded until tomorrow afternoon." Rashid's eyes never left her face. "The storm system stretches from here to France. You can check if you'd like, but I promise you won't find anything." She wanted to argue, to demand proof, but Lily was growing fussy again, and she could feel the curious stares of other travelers. A young woman in hijab with a crying baby, clearly distressed, clearly alone. "What do you want from me?" she asked bluntly. "Men don't help women like me without expecting something. Perhaps I'm not like other men?" His smile was enigmatic. "Or perhaps I simply recognize someone who needs help and have the means to provide it. That doesn't answer my question. Then let me be clear. I want nothing from you except the opportunity to ensure you and your daughter are safe for one night. Tomorrow morning, I'll arrange your flight to London, give you money for a fresh start, and you'll never see me again." He paused, "Unless you choose otherwise." The last part sent a shiver through her that wasn't entirely from fear. Against her better judgment, she allowed him to help her into the Mercedes. The leather seats were buttery soft, and the interior smelled of leather and that same intoxicating cologne she'd noticed on the plane. As they drove through Istanbul's streets, Maya found herself studying Rashid's profile in the intermittent streetlights. He was younger than she'd first thought, maybe mid-30s, with the kind of sharp, aristocratic features that spoke of good breeding and better money. "What do you do?" she asked, needing to fill the silence. "I run several businesses." His answer was deliberately vague. "Shipping, primarily. Some real estate investments. Import and export in Istanbul, Dubai, London." "So you travel?" He turned to look at her, and again she felt that flutter of danger mixed with something else she didn't want to name. "What about you? What were you running from in Dubai?" The question was casual, but she heard the steel beneath it. "That's none of your business, isn't it?" One dark eyebrow rose. "A young widow with a baby? A red-eye flight to London with one bag, looking over your shoulder every few minutes. That sounds like running to me." Heat flooded her cheeks. "How do you know I'm a widow?" "You're wearing a wedding ring." But you introduced yourself with only your first name. You're traveling alone, which suggests no husband. And there's grief in your eyes that's still fresh. His voice softened. I'm sorry for your loss. The observation was too accurate, too perceptive. Who are you really? Someone who understands what it's like to lose family. He turned back to the window. Someone who's learned to recognize when others are in trouble. Before she could respond, the car stopped in front of a gleaming high-rise that seemed to pierce the clouds. The building was all glass and steel, modern and expensive, with a doorman in a crisp uniform who nodded respectfully as they approached. Good evening, Mr. Al-Mansouri, the doorman said in Turkish-accented English. Welcome home. This is where you live? Maya asked, craning her neck to look up at the building's height, the top floor. He guided her toward the entrance, where another uniformed man held the door. I hope you don't mind heights. The elevator was all mirrors and soft lighting, and Maya found herself staring at their reflection. She looked small and rumpled next to Rashid's polished perfection, Lily a tiny bundle in her arms. What was she doing here? The elevator opened directly into a penthouse that belonged in a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Bosphorus, where boats twinkled like floating stars. The furnishings were all clean lines and expensive materials, Italian leather, Turkish rugs, modern art on the walls. It was beautiful, sophisticated, and utterly impersonal. It's lovely, she said, though the space felt more like a showroom than a home. Thank you. Rashid shrugged out of his gutra and thobe jacket, revealing a crisp white shirt underneath. Are you hungry? I can have something sent up. I'm fine. She wasn't, but she didn't want to be more indebted to him than she already was. Maybe just... Could I use your bathroom to change her? Of course. He gestured down a hallway. Second door on the right. There are supplies in the cabinet. The bathroom was bigger than her bedroom back in Dubai, all marble and gold fixtures. She changed Lily's diaper on the counter, talking softly to keep the baby calm and herself from panicking. When she emerged, she found Rashid standing by the windows with a glass of what looked like whiskey in his hand. Better? He asked without turning around. Yes, thank you. She bounced Lily gently, trying to settle her. I really appreciate this, but I should probably find a hotel. Sit down, Maya. Something in his tone made her freeze. When she looked at him, his expression had changed. The polite mask had slipped, revealing something harder underneath. What's going on? Sit down. This time, it wasn't a request. She sank onto the leather couch, every muscle tense. Rashid. He picked up a remote from the coffee table and pointed it at the massive wall-mounted television. The screen flickered to life, showing a news broadcast in Arabic with English subtitles. Breaking news. Missing woman and child sought by Dubai family. Maya's blood turned to ice. On screen, she watched herself and Lily in Dubai airport security footage. The image was grainy but clear enough to identify them both. She couldn't finish the sentence. You. Rashid's voice was calm, matter-of-fact. The news broke about an hour after takeoff. Your in-laws are very concerned about your welfare. He changed the channel, and now she was looking at her father-in-law standing outside the Al-Zarani family villa, his face a mask of concern and righteous anger for the cameras. We just want them home safely, he was saying to reporters. Maya is fragile, still grieving. She's not thinking clearly. She needs her family's protection. Turn it off. The words came out strangled. The screen went black, but the damage was done. They'd found her already. Somehow, impossibly, they'd tracked her down. How? She whispered. I was so careful. Credit cards, Rashid said simply. The moment you bought that plane ticket, you might as well have sent up a flare. Your in-laws had people at the airport within hours. But I paid cash for the ticket. Yes, but you used a card for the airport parking and the coffee you bought at the gate. He moved to sit across from her. They've been tracking your movements since yesterday. She felt sick. All her careful planning, all her precautions, and she'd been caught by something so simple. They'll find me here, she said, hearing the defeat in her own voice. No. His voice was absolutely certain. They won't. You don't understand. The Al-Zaranis have connections, money, influence. So do I. Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Better ones. She stared at him, really seeing him for the first time. You're not just some businessman, are you? No. He leaned back in his chair, studying her with that unsettling intensity. I'm not. Then what are you? Someone who's been watching your family for a very long time. His smile was sharp as a blade. Someone who's been waiting for the right moment to act. The room seemed to shrink around her. You knew. When you sat next to me on the plane, you knew who I was. I knew. He didn't try to deny it. I've been tracking your situation for months, Maya, waiting for you to run. Why? The word came out as barely more than a whisper. Because your husband's family is involved in something very dangerous. And you were their next target. Chapter 3. Maya's hands shook as she processed Rashid's words. What do you mean, their next target? He stood and walked to a sleek desk in the corner, pulling out a tablet. The Al-Zahranis aren't just a wealthy family with traditional values. They're traffickers. The word hung in the air like poison. That's impossible. They're respected. They donate to charities. They buy and sell women. His voice was flat, emotionless. Vulnerable women, usually foreign wives or domestic workers. They've been doing it for years, using their legitimate businesses as cover. He handed her the tablet, which showed documents, photographs, financial records. Maya's vision blurred as she tried to make sense of what she was seeing. Your husband discovered the truth about 6 months before he died, Rashid continued. He was planning to go to the authorities. His car accident wasn't an accident, Maya. The room spun. No, Tariq would have told me. He was trying to protect you. He'd already contacted investigators, gathered evidence, but they found out before he could act. Why are you telling me this? Tears streamed down her face. What do you want from me? I want to destroy them. The raw hatred in his voice made her flinch. They killed your husband. They killed my sister. And they were going to use you and Lily to cover their tracks. Your sister, Amira, she was married to one of the Al-Zahrani cousins. His hands clenched into fists. When she tried to leave, they made sure she never made it out of the country. Her death was ruled a suicide. Maya felt the pieces clicking into place with sickening clarity. How long have you been planning this? 2 years, since Amira died. He met her eyes. I've been building a case, gathering evidence, waiting for the right opportunity. When I learned you were planning to run, I knew this was it. So you manipulated me. Got me on that plane, redirected it here. I saved your life, he interrupted. If you'd made it to London, they would have found you within days. Here, under my protection, you're safe. Safe? She laughed bitterly. I'm trapped in a strange city with a man I don't know who's been stalking me for months. I haven't been stalking you. I've been protecting you. He moved closer, and she could see the emotion cracking through his controlled facade. Every threat that came near you, I eliminated. Every attempt to isolate you further, I countered. You think you survived this long on your own? I've been watching over you since the day your husband died. The admission should have terrified her. Instead, she felt something break open inside her chest. Why? She whispered. Why go to all this trouble for someone you've never met? Because no one protected Amira. His voice was rough with old grief. Because I failed my sister. And I won't fail another woman trapped by that family. And because... He stopped, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Because what? Because from the moment I saw your photograph in the investigation files, I knew I'd do whatever it took to keep you safe. The confession hung between them, loaded with implications neither was ready to fully address. Lily chose that moment to start crying, breaking the tension. Maya automatically bounced her. But the baby was inconsolable, overwhelmed by the strange environment and her mother's distress. She needs to eat, Maya said, looking around helplessly. And I don't have enough formula. I'll handle it. Rashid was already on his phone, speaking rapid Turkish. He hung up and turned to her. Supplies will be here in 15 minutes. Everything you need. 20 minutes later, Maya sat on the leather couch, feeding Lily, while Rashid paced by the windows, making quiet phone calls in multiple languages. She caught fragments, Arabic, Turkish, English, but couldn't follow the conversations. When Lily finally fell asleep, milk-drunk and content, Maya carefully laid her in the portable crib that had arrived with the supplies. Then she turned to face Rashid. If what you're saying is true, if they really are traffickers, then we need to go to the police. The police? His laugh was bitter. The Al-Zahranis own half the police force in Dubai. Why do you think they've gotten away with it for so long? Then Interpol, the FBI, someone already working on it. But we need ironclad evidence, and that's where you come in. Me? What can possibly? You have access to things I don't. Tariq's personal files, his laptop, his phone records. You were his wife. You know where he kept his secrets. Maya thought about the encrypted flash drive Tariq had given her shortly before he died. Keep this safe, he'd said. If anything happens to me, give it to the authorities. Promise me. She'd never looked at it, too consumed by grief and then survival. It was hidden in the lining of her bag, right here in Rashid's penthouse. I might have something, she said slowly, but I want guarantees, protection for me and Lily. New identities. Somewhere they can never find us. Done. He didn't hesitate. I have resources, connections. I can give you a new life anywhere in the world. And what do you get out of this? Justice for my sister. Justice for your husband. And he paused, his dark eyes intense on hers. The knowledge that you're safe. Over the next week, Maya and Rashid worked together to decode Tariq's files. The evidence was damning. Financial records showing payments to officials, testimony from escaped victims, communications detailing operations across multiple countries. It was enough to bring down not just the Al-Zahranis, but an entire network. But something else was happening too. In the quiet moments between planning and evidence gathering, Maya found herself noticing things about Rashid. The way he was gentle with Lily, making her laugh with silly faces. The way he listened when Maya talked about Tariq, never jealous of her grief. The way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching, with longing and hope and something that looked dangerously close to love. We have enough, he said one evening, closing his laptop with finality. I've been in contact with Interpol. They're ready to move. So it's over? Almost. He turned to face her, and she saw vulnerability in his expression for the first time. There's something I need to tell you. What? This started as protection, as justice for my sister. But somewhere along the way, it became about something else. He moved closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. It became about you, Rashid. I'm falling in love with you, Maya. Maybe I have been since the first time I saw your photo. I know it's crazy. I know the timing is terrible, but I needed you to know before this all ends. Her heart pounded so hard she was sure he could hear it. And what happens after? After they're arrested and we're safe? That's up to you. His hand came up to cup her cheek, his thumb stroking across her cheekbone. You can take your new identity, disappear with Lily, never see me again, or you can stay. Build a life here with me. Let me be the father Lily deserves and the partner you need. Maya looked at this complicated, dangerous man who had moved heaven and earth to protect them, who made her daughter laugh, who had given her hope when she had none. I need time, she said finally, to grieve Tariq properly, to process everything, to figure out who I am outside of being someone's wife or someone's target. Take all the time you need. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. I'm not going anywhere. Epilogue, 6 months later. The Istanbul courthouse was packed with journalists and victims as the judge read the verdicts. The Al-Zahrani family empire crumbled with each guilty verdict. Trafficking, money laundering, murder, conspiracy. Maya sat beside Rashid in the gallery, holding Lily, who was playing with his prayer beads, the same ones he'd given her that first night on the plane. Her daughter was bigger now, babbling in a mixture of English and Arabic, calling Rashid Baba with complete confidence. It's over, she whispered, as the last Al-Zahrani was led away in handcuffs. It's over, he confirmed, his hand finding hers. That evening, in their apartment overlooking the Bosphorus, she'd insisted on her own place, though she spent most nights at his penthouse anyway. Maya found Rashid on the terrace, watching the sunset paint the city gold. Baba! Lily toddled toward him on unsteady legs, arms outstretched. He scooped her up, his laugh pure joy. "There's my girl. Were you good for Mama today?" "She's always good." Maya joined them, and Rashid's arm came around her waist, pulling her close. "We had lunch with some of the women from the shelter. They want to start a support group." "That's wonderful." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "I'm proud of you." She'd started volunteering at the women's shelter Rashid funded, using her own experience to help other survivors. It was healing, purposeful, everything she'd needed. "Rashid," she said softly, "I've been thinking about what you asked me 6 months ago." He went still, hope and fear warring in his expression. "And I think I'm ready." She turned, in his arms, looking up at him, ready to stop hiding, ready to build something real. "Are you sure? I don't want you to feel pressured." She silenced him with a kiss. When she pulled back, she was smiling. "I'm sure. You've been patient. You've given me space. You've let me heal. But the truth is, I fell in love with you too. Somewhere between the plane and the evidence gathering and watching you be a father to my daughter." "Our daughter," he corrected gently. "If you'll let me adopt her officially, I'd like that." Tears streamed down her face. But they were happy tears this time. "I'd like all of it. The family, the future, the life we can build together." Lily grabbed both their faces, pulling them together with a delighted giggle that made them both laugh. "So," Rashid said, his forehead resting against hers, "is that a yes to my proposal from 6 months ago?" "That depends. Are you going to ask me properly this time?" He grinned, and still holding Lily, somehow managed to pull a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, perfect. "Maya, will you marry me? Not because you need protection, not because of Lily, but because we choose each other, because we've built something real from impossible circumstances." "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Yes to all of it." As the sun set over Istanbul, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Maya reflected that sometimes the worst moments of your life led to the best ones. Sometimes the person you least expected became exactly who you needed. She'd boarded that plane as a scared widow running for her life. She'd fallen asleep on a stranger's shoulder and woken up to a new beginning. And now, wrapped in Rashid's arms with their daughter between them, she was finally, truly home. The end. If you enjoyed this emotional journey, please like, subscribe, and share with friends who love stories of unexpected romance and second chances. Your support means everything. What did you think of Maya and Rashid's story? Let us know in the comments below.